You know I've traveled near and far, see the shining sea. I've seen a lot of places and people that were nice to me. One place that's in my heart, and this is how I feel. I'm talking about my hometown, Fayetteville. She's nestled in the sand hills on a river called Fayetteville. Special to so many who proudly served our country here. She was named for Lafayette and known for cotton mills. I'm talking about my hometown, Fayetteville. My hometown, Fayetteville. I'm so proud to be from here. It don't take long when you're away from home to find out how you feel. It's always good to come home to Fayetteville. Babe Ruth hit his first one, heard around the world. Sherman marched with the Union and burned the arsenal. Old Market House still standing, but stands for freedom's will. I'm talking about my hometown, Fayetteville. My hometown, Fayetteville. I'm so proud to be from here. It don't take long when you're away from home to find out how you feel. It's always good to come home to Fayetteville. My all-American city, Fayetteville. Talking about my hometown, Fayetteville.
February 12, 2018, City Council meeting. At this time, I want to ask that Pastor Josh Goodman of Cliffdale Christian Center come forth with the invocation. We would ask that all would rise for the prayer. Please remain standing for the pledges of allegiance. And I saw our scouts somewhere. After the invocation, if the Boy Scouts are present, if they could come and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Hey, Pastor.
Let us all go to the Lord in prayer. Heavenly Father God, we come before you now in the name of Jesus. And Father, we say, come into this place. Lord, fill it with your love, your grace, your mercy. Have your way in this place this evening, O God. Father, I speak forth in the name of Jesus, your wisdom over our mayor, over our members of city council, over our city leadership. Father, allow them to lead, to guide, and to direct with strength, with integrity, with passion, God, for your glory. Father, I speak forth your blessing over our city, that, Father, you would cause the residents of this city to be blessed, and that, Father, they would prosper in your glory. God, I thank you for our city, that it is a good city. It is a great city, and that, Father, we have your blessing. So, God, have your way tonight. We love you, Lord, in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Wait for the Boy Scouts. I don't see them. There they go.
Scouts always ready.
Y'all can lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Hello, gentlemen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. How are you, sir? like to see if you could stick around. We'll ask that Pastor Goodman, if you would give us a few words about your church and your ministry, and then the scout leader, if he would.
Yes, sir. My name's Pastor Joshua Goodman, Cliffdale Christian Center. I'm the senior pastor. We are a multiracial, non-denominational church over on the west side, right across the street from Cliffdale Elementary School. Larry Wright is our councilman over there, so we praise God for him. And we got a church, school, going all the way up next year to graduation. We do pre-K 2, 3, and 4, so just got good things going on over there. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Hello, sir.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council member. I'm James Krishan, Scoutmaster, Boy Scout Troop 29, sponsored by Lewis Chapel Missionary Baptist Church. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you this evening. The troop is over 40 years old. We have produced over 30 Eagle Scouts. We have 6 that should make Eagle Scout this year. We just celebrated Scout Sunday at Lewis Chapel Missionary Baptist Church yesterday, where we did the 8:30 and 11 o'clock service. It's a privilege to work with the youth. However, we're always looking for young scouts to join us. We're getting ready for Marybad University of South Carolina, coupled with preparation for Camp Durant, as well as leadership training at Camp Durant for the summer of 2018. So if you know young guys 10 years and older want to join Scout, send them to Lewis Chapel Missionary Baptist Church, Troop 29. We meet on Monday nights from 7 to 8:30. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for what you're doing. Just like to announce and also give our prayers for well wishes to Councilmember Larry Wright, Councilmember DJ Hare, who are both under the weather tonight and will not be joining us. Item 4.0 are the announcements. Councilmember Art.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and ladies and gentlemen, and those folks watching on TV, I'd like to invite you to subscribe to City Happening, and it's a new newsletter that the city has developed, and the intent of the newsletter is to make sure that we have engagement with all our citizens and residents, and by subscribing, you can get the latest information. It comes out every 2 weeks, and it'll be sent to you, and it'll include news, updates from the city, videos produced by Fayetteville, with different data and important information from the city website to include calendar events. And it's a one-stop shop for people, who are looking for assistance with permits and different things like that. And if you want to see what the city council is doing, you can check on the latest happenings with the city council and our council agendas. So anything recent or newsworthy related to the city, you can find it now. That's City Happenings, and there'll be some information at the back with Mr. Kevin Arata. Kevin, if you'll raise your hand, please. Thank you. Kevin will have some information back there, or you can go to the city website, the City of Fayetteville website, and you can find the information there. Make sure you subscribe today.
Thank you, Councilman Art. I'd like to now yield to Councilmember Jensen for the FCYC.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to introduce tonight, we have Emily here. She is a senior at Grace Creek High School, and I'm going to turn it over to Emily. She is with the Fayetteville Cumberland Youth Council.
Hi, I'm Emily Brzee. I go to Grace Creek, like she just said, and I've been a part of Fayetteville Cumberland Youth Council for 2 years now, and I really enjoy being a part of it. Right now, what we're working on is Kindness Matters. In 10 different schools in Cumberland County, we've set up posters that have kind acts, and what a student does is they walk up and they pick a kind act to do, something like sit with someone new at lunch, and then they take it and they write their name down, and then they complete the kind act. So we're just trying to spread kindness throughout all the schools. And I have an example of what our board looks like. It just says Kindness Matters, and there's lots of different sticky notes, and it looks like this with all the kind acts to do. And we were really hoping that the city council that you guys could participate in it, so we made one for you guys. So if you guys wanted to do it, I have some markers and stuff. If you guys want to do it, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Emily. Welcome to tonight's meeting. At this time, we'll ask that Mayor Pro Tem, Councilmember Moan, will ask that Mr. Chip Lucas, the Executive Director of Career and Technical Education, if you meet us at the podium. Meet me.
This evening, we'll be given a proclamation. This is from the office of the mayor. The proclamation reads, whereas February 2018 has been designated Career and Technical Education Month by the Association for Career and Technical Education, and whereas profound economic and technological changes in our society are rapidly reflected in the structure and nature of work, thereby placing new additional responsibilities on our educational systems, and whereas career and technical education provides Americans with school-to-career connections in the backbone of a strong, well-educated workforce, which fosters productivity in business and industry and contributes to American leadership in the international marketplace. Whereas career and technical education gives high school students experience in practical, meaningful applications of skills such as reading, math, and mathematics, writing, thus improving the quality of their education, motivating potential dropouts, and giving all students leadership opportunities in their fields and in their communities. Whereas career and technical education offers individuals lifelong opportunities to learn new skills which provide them with career choice and potential satisfaction. And whereas the ever-increasing cooperation efforts of career and technical education, businesses, and industry stimulate the growth and vitality of our local economy and that of the entire nation by preparing graduates for career fields forecast to experience the largest and fastest growth in the next decade. Therefore, I, Mitch Colvin, Mayor of the City of Fayetteville, North Carolina, on behalf of the Fayetteville City Council, do hereby honorably proclaim February 2018 as Career and Technical Education Month in Cumberland County Schools, and urge all citizens to become familiar with the services and benefits offered by the Career and Technical Education Program in the community, and to support and participate in the programs to enhance their individual work skills and productivity. In witness thereof, I hereunto my hand and cause the seal of the City of Fayetteville to be affixed this 9th day of February 2018. Proclamation was signed on the 9th. We know today is the 12th, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor and City Council. Mayor, you've been our guest speaker before at our Career and Technical Education Honors Luncheon, and we appreciate the opportunity to bring CTE to you this month. CTE Month is celebrated in our school systems, in our middle and high schools, actually across the district. And as you just read, we're that School to Careers Connection, showing positive placements of our high school graduates after they leave high school, whether they're going to post-secondary education, the military, or to the world of work. We also are very pleased that our graduation rate is higher than that of the actual regular graduation rate of our high school seniors. Over half of our students in our high schools are career and technical education students, and they are graduating at a more rapid rate than the general population. So thank you for this opportunity. And I do have a few little offers of thanks for your support of the proclamation this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lucas. Thank you for the great work you're doing with the youth. Council, at this time, as we move to item 5.0, look for the approval of the agenda. Entertain a motion.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Have a motion by Councilmember Arp, a second by Councilmember Williams for the approval of the agenda. Any discussion on the motion? Council, I ask for your votes. Madam Clerk, that's unanimous from those present. Moving right along to item 6.0, the consent agenda. Entertain a motion or the removal of any items for consent discussion.
Mr. Mayor, I'd move that we approve the consent agenda items presented.
Thank you, Councilmember Art, and seconded by Councilmember Dawkins. Council, any discussion on the motion? If none, I'll ask for your vote. Madam Clerk, that is unanimous from those present. Item 7.01, report by RSM LLP audit and financial results from year-end June 30, 2017. Ms. Cheryl, how are you? Please introduce yourself for those that may not know you and your guests.
I will. I'm Cheryl Spivey, Chief Financial Officer for the city. And our guest today is Luke Hannon. He's a partner with RSM. RSM was the audit firm that did the independent audit of the city's financials this year. And Mr. Cannon has a presentation. It's already been presented to the audit committee and was accepted by the audit committee. And the audit committee recommended that he give the same presentation to the full council.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. I would like first to say thanks to the finance staff and to everybody here. This was our first year as auditors, and the city had a lot of people who were in new roles, and we were here, we were new, we were asking lots of questions. So they were very helpful, and it was, it's quite an undertaking each year, and we appreciate their help and good attitude. All right, I believe that you can see what's on the screen here. Basically, I'm going to break this down into two pieces, both financial and compliance. We audit under 4 different sets of requirements. Our generally accepted auditing standards, which are our normal professional standards. Because you're a government auditing standards apply. Because you receive federal grants, the Federal Single Audit Act applies, and because you receive state grants, the State Single Audit Implementation Act applies. So there's a tremendous number of requirements and testing and reporting that we do. And first, we're going to start out with the financial statements. You can see on your screen the comprehensive annual financial report is about a 250-page document. It's broken down into different sections. And I'm not even going to go into those tonight, but it breaks down into management's discussion and analysis, which is a synopsis of what happened during the year. Then there are the government-wide financial statements, and they are what's called full accrual. And there's always been a big debate about whether government should report like they budget, which is more cash in, cash out, or report like businesses on Wall Street, where you show all liabilities and assets. So they really couldn't get to an answer. So their final answer was, we're going to do it both ways. And they've been going about that process of making sure that the government-wide financial statements, which are full accrual, and the fund financial statements, which are the way you budget each year, cash in, cash out. There are footnotes to the financial statements to give more details, and then certain required supplemental schedules and other supplementary information, and then compliance. Basically, what we do is render our opinion on your financial statements, and you can get one of 4 types of opinions. If we don't think your financial statements are fairly stated, we'd render an adverse opinion. If something was so contingent we couldn't render an opinion, we would disclaim. If we agree that your financial statements were fairly stated except for a particular item or items, we would qualify except for those items. Then there's what's called an unmodified, sometimes called a clean opinion. It's the highest level of assurance we can give as auditors, and you do receive a clean opinion. It's what every bond rating agency, regulatory body, every entity that interacts with you is looking for that. We also like to put in some information just for the board's information and further use, and we like to point out certain things. And we give this pie chart to show that this is the general fund revenues, and you can see the different colors for the different sections. And you can see ad valorem taxes, and below that, that's 45% of your general fund revenues. And also, I think you can see the pointer, unrestricted intergovernmental, which includes mostly sales tax. So to drive revenue in the general fund, The economy is going to have a fair amount to say about sales tax, and ad valorem taxes, you can make a change there. But to change your overall revenue, one of those two is going to have to change. This gives you a 5-year look back. The blue bar, which on the far right, shows the 2017 year. This is by major category. The blue bar is ad valorem taxes. You can see if you compare it to the blue column on the left, it's up about 4.3%. And that's two pieces. It's the valuation of the property in the city is up about 1.6 or 1.7 of that, and the rest is actually due to the rate going up. So only a portion of it is due to the rate. And you can see that unrestricted, the green bar, unrestricted intergovernmental up primarily due to sales tax. So the tax rate, and we like to give you some comparative to other entities your size. Once a year, the state treasurer comes out with comparatives. The numbers we're comparing to are similar sized counties and also statewide rates. And they are last year's, but they don't change that much from year to year because you have a grouping. But the ones for 6/30/17 are not out yet. So we compare, and you can see that the city of Fayetteville's tax rate compared to similar sized cities with a utility, electric utility, very much the same, very much in order. And this shows the percent of property tax levy collected, which is handled by the county, and you can see that you've been approaching 99.5% for the last 3 years. And your collection rate here compared to, again, the same similar sized cities and statewide. So it looks very, very favorable when compared to, both sets. From revenues, we flip over to expenditures, and obviously public safety is the big driver, almost 60% of your general fund expenditures there. And again, we show it over a 5-year period. The green bar, it shows 80.5 million. That compares to 80.2 in the prior year, so the amounts have not changed radically. You can see that really when you compare to the prior years, the amounts truly don't change all that much because you don't dramatically change your general fund budget from year to year. So revenues less expenditures, we're back to fund balance. This shows a 5-year look back on fund balance and the total fund balance, which was 64.3 million, but that's made up of a lot of different pieces. And this is what's on your screen now, shows the different pieces of what's in fund balance. If you get money from a third party, it may be restricted as to how it can be used. Some of the items of your fund balance may not really be cash that you can spend, maybe inventory or prepaid expense items. So you can see at the very bottom, unassigned, $21 million, substantially below what's in the total amount. And that is, you have third parties that put restrictions on your fund balance. And you also have a state statute, a very conservative statute from back in the 30s that says you can appropriate fund balance to the extent you have cash in hand, less enough to pay your liabilities, any encumbrances, that's things that have been ordered but not yet received, and any deferred revenues, which might be grants that are received up front and you haven't earned them yet. So it's a really conservative statute, and because of that, you have the stabilization by state statute. That means, and it's primarily associated with receivables, things you haven't gotten yet. So the state statute won't let you appropriate that. Very conservative. So we also try to give you a look at fund balance available as a percentage of your general fund expenditures. And you can see that the city is about 25%. Again, the similar size, 39%, and statewide, 46%. So does that mean you're being very efficient? It may, but different cities will, that you may have projects coming, so you build it up somewhere. There may come a day when yours builds up because you have things you're going to be doing. So it's not necessarily right or wrong, but it's certainly an efficient fund balance available at this point. Any questions about that? All right, then we're going to just dive into compliance. I mentioned grants and all that.
I did have a question on that one, sir.
Yes, sir.
So, if you can just recapture that part again, the amount that we have comparable to similar sized cities, the accumulation of fund value, hit that part again for us if you can, the percentage of fund balance.
One of the things that gives you more financial stability is to have fund balance that you can use. So one of the comparisons that the state treasurer puts together is, well, let's compare your available fund balance to how much you're going to spend in the general fund for a year's time. And this compares the city's approximately 25% to similar sized cities with a utility, electric utility, keep about, or 39%. And then statewide, it's about 47%. And one of the reasons that goes up is that smaller cities, percentage-wise, have to be ready for something, where your revenues are more stable and stronger. And small cities, percentage-wise, have to keep more in there.
Well, let me ask you a question with that.
Sure.
Now, the similar sized cities that you're doing comparison to, are there any other cities our size with the utility that they own? Because I understood Fayetteville was kind of unique to that.
No, they're about, it's either 8 or 10 in that group.
All right, thank you.
Okay, compliance, again, we talked about government auditing standards, the Single Audit Act, and the State Single Audit Implementation Act. So we have to come through and test what are deemed to be major programs. And for the city this year, the CDG block grant, and then FEMA grants, and state programs, Powell bill for street aid, and then state aid to airports, and then the state matching portion for the FEMA grants. So we have to come in and test these, and we render opinions, just like we render an opinion on your financial statements. And again, you receive clean opinions on all these major programs. As a part of doing the audit, we look at controls and control deficiencies. A control deficiency exists when the operation or design of a control doesn't allow management and the staff in the normal course of doing their operations to either prevent or detect and correct errors in the financial statements. And it can range from small matters, just considered control deficiencies, to what are called material weaknesses, one that could let a really large, possibly, error into the financial statements. And then in the middle, you have significant deficiencies, which are not as large as a material, but larger than a control deficiency. There were 3, and 2 related to PwC. One of those 2 related to a work order module, and one was related to some opening balances. There was one significant deficiency related to the city, which had to do with general IT controls. In this day and time, I think we can all agree, and everybody knows, that security and anything that protects the information and your systems is paramount. So here, I'm not going to go into them. I've just given you just a short version One of the matters was related to the work order module at PwC, and then some classifications in that position, and then the general IT controls here. Management has one of the ones at PwC is already taken care of. The other one and the one at the city management has a written plan on how that's going to be dealt with. Lastly, what's called SAS 114, that's Statement on Auditing Standards 114. It came out of a study of audit failures, and it seems that in going back and looking at the Enrons and WorldComs and the mega audit failures, a large number of those might have been prevented just by having direct contact between the auditors and the board, which out of that grew this requirement, and that's what this is. I'll give you the high points of it, not each one. If there had been disagreements with management, we would state what those are and discuss those with you. There were none. If there were estimates that we think were aggressive, or we did not necessarily agree with how they were determined, we would identify those and discuss those with you. We go into the number of adjustments that we have to propose to post to your general ledger. It's one bellwether of an audit. If we come in and have to post or propose 50 adjustments to get your books right, then something's not working quite right. But we did not have to propose any journal entries. And there were no what are called past adjustments or uncorrected errors. Sometimes when you get to the end of an engagement and you find a potential adjusting entry, we look at it with management. If it's qualitatively and quantitatively not material, if management wants to pass and not run it all the way back through the financial statements, that makes sense. It's not going to change anybody's conclusions about the city. So, and there were none for this year. So again, that's that's the way you want to have it. But there's nothing necessarily wrong with having past adjustments. That's a quick trip through 250 pages. That is your financial statements. So again, we appreciate the assistance we received, and I think that everybody here was very nice. I know that, see, Cheryl's happy. It's probably because I'm leaving. So anyway, we thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity to work with you.
All right, thank you, sir. Council, any questions for the auditors? Yes, sir. Councilmember Chris.
No. Right.
But there was a possibility, and we need to clarify in writing our control procedures to ensure that it cannot happen or will not happen.
Correct. And there were controls and policies that weren't necessarily written down, and actually doesn't necessarily mean there weren't controls that were functioning. But the way it works, the transparency and accountability of a government is such that not documented, not done. Unless we can establish in our testing that accountability, then we have something that we have to write up and suggest. That you need a policy, everybody needs to follow it and understand it. So it's just putting that policy into place. Yes, sir.
What are we doing?
Well, we, as always, take the recommendations and issues found in the audit very seriously. As part of the finalization of the audit report, as Mr. Cannon was saying, we had to come up with a corrective action plan for any and all of the deficiencies. I will say to council that one of the things we're going to we hope to fund in the upcoming budget year, if funds are available, is someone in our IT department to focus solely on security and compliance with policies. That was a recommendation that we received from the School of Government and an audit report that Christoph did several years ago. And out of maybe the 15 recommendations that that were given, that was the only recommendation that the city has not completed. And so, again, with council's support and with backing as well from the information we have from the audit, that'll be something that you will see as part of next year's budget, draft budget from the manager to the council.
Thank you, sir, for a very comprehensive report. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir. And just a quick question for you. In your presentation, when you talked about our tax rate compared, you said to similar-sized counties. Did you mean cities, or did you do
Cities.
Oh, okay.
I work with cities and counties, and I'm sorry, that was a slip of the tongue.
Okay, no
Similar-sized cities with an electric utility.
Okay, and just to summarize this, in your opinion, the report basically says that we've got the clean opinion.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Thank
Good
you very
job
much.
to the finance team, and thank you for your service. Councilors, we move now to the public forum. Did you need action on this, sir? Okay. All right, council, we entertain a motion to accept the finance report as presented.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we accept the finance report as presented from RSM.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Chris, for that motion, seconded by Councilmember Dawkins. Any discussion on the motion? Council asks for your votes. Madam Clerk, that's unanimous from those present. Thank you. Item 8.0 is the public forum. To the members of the public forum, this is a time that any Fayetteville resident may have input and a voice in what goes on in their city. Due to policy restrictions, the forum will not last any longer than, typically that is 15 minutes. We have an abundance of speakers. I will adhere to a 20-minute extension. It said that each speaker will be given limited time to address the city council on issues related to the city of Fayetteville. Individuals wishing to speak at tonight's public forum should have signed up with the clerk prior to the start of tonight's meeting. If you are here to speak on items that may be on tonight's agenda under the public hearing, we ask that you reserve your comments to that public hearing. So when your name is called by the city clerk, we ask you to come to the podium. Yes, sir. Ask you to come to the podium and clearly state your name and home address for the record. Then when you see the light located on the podium change from green to yellow, light change from green to yellow, you have 30 seconds left to speak. When you see red, when the red light comes on, your time has expired. Again, due to policy restrictions, we are not able to extend the time. With that being said, before, Madam Clerk, before you call your speaker. Yes, sir, Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. I've learned from checking with the clerk on the sign-in sheet for the public forum that there are a number of citizens who are here tonight with concern about an issue regarding their utility bills with the Public Works Commission. Mark Brown is here with us tonight, and again, given the limited time that we have set aside each month for the public forum, Mr. Brown has agreed that anyone who wishes to speak to him, he will be available after tonight's meeting in this room. He also has information that he can share with them at that time for anyone who's unable to speak, given the time limits that we have on our public forum. But Mr. Brown, again, will be here and after the meeting and able to talk to anyone who desires to speak with him about their utility billing.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Yes.
Just for a point of clarification, the standard period's 15 minutes, and you said a 20-minute extension. Did you mean extend the period to 20 minutes?
Total of 20 minutes.
So extend it from 15 to a total of 20?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
The rules say we cannot go any longer than 30 at the maximum, but we've extended it to 20 minutes total.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Jane, I was trying to do the math. You have about, 16 speakers? Okay, so that equates, if each speaker, my intent was to do maybe 90 seconds per speaker to give everyone an opportunity to.
90 seconds?
Yeah, so that may be a little longer than the 20 minutes. I think it came out to 25 minutes. I calculated that at a little over 15 speakers. But now you have 17, you said, right?
But
And you can always defer your time if you have someone that's on your road with similar concerns, and you can consolidate your time. So at this time, Madam Clerk, we'll ask that you would call your first speaker.
Mr. Mayor, before I call the first speaker, I don't have a way to set the timer for other than full minutes.
3 minutes.
I can
So
do
we'll
1
do that.
minute,
Can you
2
do it in 1
minute,
minute
3
increment?
minute. I
2
can,
minute increments?
I can.
Or 1 minute increments? So it'll be 3.
Most of them won't take more than 2 minutes. Let's go with 2 minutes.
Yeah, it'd have to be 1 minute, Madam Clerk, and then
1 minute, okay.
then we'll extend it. We'll estimate to 30 seconds. So
Mr. Mayor, may I clarify that Mr. Brown, I don't want citizens to think that we're cutting them off unnecessarily here with a 1 minute time limit. However, I do want to emphasize that Mr. Brown is here and will be very willing to talk to citizens over in the Lafayette room or after this session in detail about their specific problems. So I don't want them to think that this 1 minute is all that they're going to get to be heard.
right, that's a good point. And this was not in any way to not allow you all to speak. The council has a policy for a maximum of 30 minutes, which I'm okay with that. When I initially checked the sign-in list, had a certain amount of speakers that we wanted to make sure that everyone had an equal time to do that. But to reiterate what Councilmember Chris said, Mr. Brown is here from PwC, who will stay after the meeting to address a more detailed conversation with you, and to let you know, the citizens know, that the city council, by state statute, has no control over rate setting. Okay, and so we want to make sure that we hear your concerns and that we get you in touch with the people who can address and solve the problem. So we'll do that, and I want to make sure that everyone has a reasonable time to speak, and we'll move forward with the public hearing.
Mr. Mayor, would you have Mr. Brown stand so everybody can see
Yes.
who he is, please? Thank you, Mr. Brown. Okay, thank you.
All right.
Mr. Mayor, our first speaker is Miss Delesha Avcarte, Avcarate. Our second speaker,
Mr. Chairman, we have some folks in the overflow,
Okay.
so we'll give it a minute. Okay.
our next speaker is Mr. Cedric Coleman.
This is Ms. Lackhart? Okay. Yeah. Hello, sir.
How you doing, Mary?
All right.
Good evening, Council. Cedric Coleman.
Please state your address for us, Mr.
Yes,
Cole.
sir. 1944 Abbeydale Lane here in Fayetteville, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. First, I would like to say good evening to the council. My name is Cedric Coleman, Army veteran and disabled veterans outreach specialist for the state of North Carolina. However, I'm here this evening as a volunteer coach and a mentor to the youth within Fayetteville, Cumberland Parks and Recreation. My concern developed on the 3rd of February 2018 during a youth basketball game. I feel that I received a harsher penalty than what the situation allowed, a 10-day suspension. I assure you my intentions are not centered on retaliation, but to express my concern and dissatisfaction in the complaint process and how the chain of command failed to consider facts related to the concern. Before the start of the game, referees were aggressive than normal. Tone and body language was very clear to express aggression, and this happened in front of the scorer's table in front of 2 staff members. When the game started, my team would score nearly every possession. This prompted the opposing coach and his parents to heckle the referees constantly. He continued while his parents shouted and booed. One parent in particular was so upset the ref stopped the game. Well, this parent happened to be the grandfather of the son on the opposing team, which is also an advisory member on the board for Parks and Rec, which totally changed the direction of the game. with that in mind, I'm very concerned about the kids' safety at this point and wanted to talk to the referees about the no calls and the, is it?
Yes, sir. We have a lot of speakers, but go ahead and continue your point if you can.
Yes, sir. And to just skip to it, Mayor, I appreciate that. And I went to speak to staff at Parks and Rec, and when I received the call from the athletic coordinator, she said, "Well, tell me what you did. Tell me what happened." You know, and she said, "Well, before you do, make it short. I don't want you to waste your minutes." So right then, I was pretty much understood that I was facing defeat. You know, and I reached out through the chain of command, and I was not aggressive. I even reached out to the director, and, you know, still no resolve, Mary. And I'm confused at why I received a 10-day suspension. No parents were allowed to present information. No video footage was accepted. And I'm just not sure about, you know, my connection with Parks and Recs as far as ethical practices.
Okay, Mr. Coleman, what we're going to do is, Mr. Hewitt, if you can get one of your staff members, I don't know if okay. So if you can see the city manager, Mr. Coleman, we'll make sure that
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you,
concerns are addressed. Thank you, sir. Thank you for what you're doing. Madam Clerk.
Our next speaker is Mr. Tom Clark.
Mr. Clark, how are you, sir?
Good evening. My name is Tom Clark. I live at 4643 Goldsboro Road, Wade, North Carolina. Mr. Mayor, tonight I'm here to thank you and all the fellow council members that's put up with me over these past few months about the Atlantic Coast Pipeline. And I just really appreciate your patience and at least listening. That's more than a lot of the big business would do. But the fight's not over. There's still questions about the $57.8 million slush fund, the 401 water quality permit, and also the appointing to Governor Cooper's staff of the known lobbyists for Dominion. So I'm just here to say goodbye, but I will probably be back. But thank you for your time and your patience.
Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk, please call the next speaker.
Our next speaker is Ms. Elizabeth Stiff.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Good. Can you state your name and address for us, Ms. Stiff?
Yes, I'm Elizabeth Stiff, 914 Spellman Drive, Fayetteville. And good evening, Mayor and Council. I just wanted to briefly try to summarize what's going on here. I'm speaking on behalf of many of the residents here in Fayetteville. A lot of them have come to me. I've received hundreds of calls and emails and thousands of messages concerning what's going on with the PWC situation. You know, being that many of the residents couldn't be here, a lot of the disabled and elderly couldn't speak for themselves. I wanted to try to voice a little bit for them. 90% of the calls that I was getting were primarily PWC customers, some just, you know, with issues with our utilities, period. But, you know, the disabled and elderly are having issues with not being able to do the things that they need to survive and having issues with disconnects. Some are getting bills around $400 to $1,000. Many are having double and triple bills. And being the fact that, you know, they're getting the response about it being just due to the cold weather, a lot of the residents feel that that's not sufficient. And they're wanting someone to look further into that just to give them a ease of mind and also to be fair to all residents. Let's see here. You know, they're asking that things are properly looked into, and also being that PWC is not regulated, who does PWC answer to as a whole? You know, there's a lot of things I can go on, but I wanted to just touch on the main points here. Once it's looked into, will there be assistance to possibly help those in need with their utilities and those who may not qualify for the current assistance, like with the Salvation Army? Now, I've spoken to the Fayetteville Urban Ministries and also with Mr. Clarence Briggs, CEO and chairman of AIT. He's agreed to donate a starter amount of funds to help with the utilities for residents, and others expressed interest as well. Now, would it be possible for the city and PWC to come together to perhaps match donations and assist?
Thank you, Mr.
Our next speaker is Mr. Clarence Briggs.
Good evening. My name is Clarence E. Briggs III. I reside at 307 Arundel Court. I also work across the street at 421 Maiden Lane, otherwise known as AIT. I also share the concerns of Miss Elizabeth Stiff with respect to this community, specifically the residents of Cumberland County and Fayetteville, who are also ratepayers of PWC. This group has come together and coalesced in the last couple of weeks, if you haven't noticed, consisting of thousands and thousands of members who are upset. They're confused, okay, but they are beginning to voice their opinions now, and that's not going to stop. I'd like to share a couple of observations about this group that's been created. First of all, it can be subdivided into two categories. The first categories are business or commercial users, and I've had an opportunity to talk to Mr. Mark Brown about this. Okay, that group I'm not concerned about so much as I am about the residential group. That first group is going to be able to avail itself of utility auditing companies. That is, companies that specialize in auditing utility companies. And I'm not talking about a financial audit. I'm talking a group of specialists that come in, look at billing practices, metering practices, interval polling data, all the things that need to be looked at to determine whether or not the billing's accurate. Okay? These folks work on a contingency basis, and they will basically charge the businesses nothing unless they recover something from the utility company. And it just so happens that process has begun already, and there's some very large entities in Fayetteville now who are beginning to audit their bills. And there's going to be a landslide of more to come because I've collected several hundred, and I'm going to introduce them, the local businesses, to these auditing companies. So PwC is about to become very busy. I'm here on behalf, instead, of the people who don't have someone to advocate for them. Those ratepayers that have $1,200, $1,400, $1,600 power bills and who are trying to figure out which bill to pay. Do I pay my power bill? Do I pay my mortgage? Do I pay my rent? Do I pay my grocery bill? What do I pay? And I'm freezing to death in my house. Those are the folks that I'm concerned about. And I've seen instances now personally of duplicative billing. I don't know how that works, Mr. Brown. Perhaps you can explain that to me. When a bill appears and these people are posting their bills online, and you'll see a meter number, a kilowatt charge, a dollar amount. Somebody hit the enter button, see the same line item, and then it's presented. It goes on and on and on. And I've looked at these anomalies, and I'm not going to get into all of them here. But I will say this. These people are frustrated. They're upset. They're confused. And I stand before you today and ask you to exercise some oversight on PwC and say, hey, look, what are you guys doing? And ideally, that would be an external audit by a company that specializes in that sort of endeavor. And they work for municipalities.
Mr. Briggs, bring it on in the next 10 seconds if you can.
I will. So what I propose is we look at that. I've talked to those companies. And you know what? I can't see where PwC would object to that because, after all, it's free. They work on a contingency basis. There's no cost to PwC. Right. And at the end of the day, it'll be good for the citizens because they'll be able to get the best possible service at the best possible rates, and PwC should want that.
Thank you, Mr. Briggs.
Thank you, sir.
Our next speaker is Ms. Joan Daniels.
Ms. Daniels?
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. So my name is Joan Daniels, and I reside at 236 Stoneleigh Drive here in Fayetteville. And I am the president of a nonprofit organization called Impact Your Health Fayetteville. And we have partnered with another nonprofit that's based out of California by the name of Adventist Medical Evangelism Network, AMEN. And they facilitate free dental, vision, and medical clinics around the United States and international. So we are very excited to bring them here to Fayetteville, April 13 and April 15 at the Crown Arena. And we want to service as many people in our community that are uninsured and have low income. So these, because the organizations are Christian-based. Also at the clinic, we will have an area, if people would like, they will receive spiritual care. And that will be from the various pastors from local churches here in the city. Also, our volunteers, all of the volunteers will come from Fayetteville primarily, and that includes our dentists, our hygienists, opticians, optometrists. All of the volunteers will come from Fayetteville, and as well as our sponsors. This event is free to the public, but as you can imagine, it's not free, so we do have sponsors, which we appreciate. Let's see. So we would like to just inform you all of this event. We would love to have the endorsement of the city, the mayor and the city for the event, and would love for any of the council members to come to the clinic and to give their support. And we thank you for this opportunity to share with you this evening.
All right. Thank you, ma'am.
All right, thank you.
Great work.
Our next speaker is Carla Austin.
Good evening, Mayor and council members.
Good evening.
My name is Carla Austin, and I reside in 2128 Yellow Brick Road, Fayetteville, North Carolina, 28314. I am a Latina Army veteran, and I'm an advocate for fair elections. I'm here today to ask that Fayetteville pass a resolution in opposition to state lawmakers' efforts to change the way that North Carolina selects its judges. I have provided some folders for you, and since I was prepared for 3 minutes and I only have one, I will make it pretty short. Why should you take a stand against these legislative attacks on our judiciary? Well, first, our duly elected judges are the very ones that are under attack. We had on November 11th, on Veterans Day, a town hall here in Fayetteville. While none of the invited lawmakers showed up, many local judges were there, all of whom voiced their concerns about these changes to an independent judiciary. Secondly, you should pass a resolution because you would not be alone. I've provided a copy in your folder of the Davidson County Board of Commissioners. They took their resolution to a whole nother step. They put one in writing. They included a statement in opposition to legislators picking judges and another calling on them to restore canceled judicial primaries. Finally, you should pass a resolution to let lawmakers know that Fayetteville has been gerrymandered enough. Fayetteville has been a repeated target of unconstitutional racial and partisan gerrymandering. I've also provided a map in your folders. If you look at the map, on the left is the Cumberland portion of North Carolina State District 21, recently invalidated by a federal court. And on the right is the newly proposed Judicial District 15A in Cumberland County. As you can see, if passed, our judicial maps will be virtually identical to the unconstitutional ones that are used to pack and crack our votes. In closing, I ask that you please hear your constituents, protect our judges, prevent more gerrymandering, and put in writing your opposition to judicial attacks so that together we can keep up the pressure on the legislature to end them. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Mr. Aronimi Smith. Mr. Aronimi Smith.
Greetings, sir.
Aronimi Smith Muhammad for 40 years. With the name of God, the beneficent and merciful, I greet you all in peace. My time starts right now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Welcome, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Your family is very proud of what we've done with you. Appreciate that great work. Don't let nobody forget. Aronimi helped put you up there. Listen, this is true. But anyway, I got a few seconds.
Let's state your address for me, Minister Muhammad.
Yes. All right. PWC has meetings that the public can attend at the Board of Trustees meetings every second or third Wednesday, about 10 o'clock in the morning. I've been going to those meetings for about 25 years. You citizens need to go there and show your face in the place. Next, we want to put out downtown development, the baseball stadium, must have at least 50% of the vendors be African American, Black American, since Ibrahim Muhammad. Since Ibrahim Muhammad is one of the main ones who got the thing built. And my team, the Legislative Black Caucus, helped me do this work. Fayetteville State University is doing great. Recognize everyone, this is Black History Month throughout America. And Fayetteville, you must lead the way. And Fort Bragg must get involved and put these young people in charge. Go around Fayetteville State University, see the beautiful campus, the new entrance. Chapel Hill came. They tried to change the name. The Legislative Black Caucus helped me send Chapel Hill back to Chapel Hill. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister.
Our next speaker is Ms. Patricia Dunworth. Or that could be Dilworth.
Good evening. My name's Patricia Dilworth. My address is 1910 Eichelberger Drive, Fayetteville, North Carolina. I want to thank God for having me stand here because it's in His name that I do this. I'm also a customer of PwC. Ms. Stiff spoke. I'm sorry, I need to get to there's a lot of things that I want to say. Regarding our bill, my husband and I weren't even here. We were gone for a month and a half and came home to an exorbitant bill. But that's not all that I want to say. I'm trying to get back to my concerning the city of Fayetteville. PwC, this is what I would like to say about that. I think that they should offer a budget program that a lot of cities in the north do because you have cold weathers. But also, the budget should be, the criteria for the budget that they have now is that you have to pay your bill on time every month to be eligible to be on that bill. If you're late one time, then you're ineligible. And what I want to say is, even though most of us are on a fixed income, whether we work or not, unless you work on commission, your income is fixed. So to be on a budget plan, to know that monthly, every month, you can set aside a certain amount of money would benefit us all. Our home fluctuates winter, spring, summer, fall, and it's ridiculous to see our rates go like that. That's with PwC, so that's something, I guess, for your information, but to go to PwC meeting. The other thing, I have concerns about some of the safety around town, like the very few crosswalks that they have going up Skybo Road, the very, especially around the mall area. Also, some of the streets where, Rolnick Street in particular, where traffic flies down there, there are no speed bumps, and I know that there are children on that street. Beautification, these trailers that are like Johnson Street, those trailers must have been up there at least 50 years. I think, in all fairness, the city should step in on those trailer owners, require them to tear them down, but to replace them because the people who live there need somewhere to live.
10 seconds.
Okay? And their rent shouldn't go up because God knows they've paid for those trailers 100 times over. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. All right. How many more speakers we have, Ms. Jane? We have about 5 minutes by the city's policy to abide by the 30-minute rule even.
We have 8 additional speakers.
Okay.
Yes.
So we'll have to have those speak in 1 minute increments to let all speak. But can you call the next speaker, please?
Yes, our next speaker is Miss Angela Carter.
Hi, Ms. Carter. Make sure that you speak into the microphone. That's what the message the audio folks gave me. There you go. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I am here on behalf of the citizens of Fayetteville, North Carolina. The PwC bill is ridiculous. Some of the people are on fixed incomes. and they have to decide between their medicine, their food, whatever. And I just want to take this minute to thank Mr. AIT Man and Ms. Stiff, because they both said what I think all of us are here to talk about this evening. So thank you, and I look forward to working with you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Our next speaker is Mr. Stephen Williams.
How you doing, sir?
Good evening, Mayor.
State your name and your address for me.
Stephen Williams, 6721 Arnish Court, Fayetteville, North Carolina. In my hand, I have a $5,000 bill from PwC. This is a sewer bill, not an electric bill. I only have sewer with them. And I went with them to get work with them. Last year, they cut my sewer off and told me I had to give them $2,000 in order to get it back on. I couldn't do that. So January of this year, they came to me and offered me a $150 payment until this bill is paid. This bill came because my sewer bill where I stayed is like $20, $30 a month. I've been living there about 14, 15 years. And when they gave me this, they turned me off and would not work with me. And the question they asked me was, why did you let it get so big? Well, you cut me off when it was at $90. Why they couldn't cut me off when it was at $300? Why did they wait till it get over $5,000 before they cut me off?
Our next speaker is Ms. Dolores Upchurch.
How you doing, Ms. Upchurch? Can you state your name?
Good evening. My name is Dolores Ann Upchurch, and my address is 439 Westwood, number 4, Fayetteville, North Carolina. And I'm standing here today because I'm a church mother, but I'm also a veteran of the United States Army, retired. And so I have concerns about our citizens. That's why I'm standing here for Cumberland County. Because what's happened to me is not knowing a lot of, well, being here for quite some years, but I've actually had people approach me about the PwC bills. And so I'm standing here because I have a lot of concerns about it. Even when I asked them, when I actually called them, they was talking about it was due to the weather. But like I said, when I see bills that double, triple, and you have to make a decision whether you're going to pay your rent or put food in the house. And some people not even being at there, like me. Some of the time I wasn't even there. But I want to thank, I think it's Miss Spade and the other gentleman, because they said a lot of things that I feel, okay. But I just want to, basically, I'm just standing here as an advocate, because it's bothering me, because we actually said we get pledged to the allegiance that all the citizens would be blessed. And I know that blessings from God, when the blessings of God, they make you rich and they don't have no sorrow. So I'm trying to figure out, how is this happening? Because I feel like PwC needs to be audited. There need to be some solutions to what's going on.
Thank you. We have some more speakers, but thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Mr. Chelenko Hurst.
Evening,
Good evening,
sir.
Council. Good evening. How you doing? My name is Chelenko Hurst. I reside in 55 Academia in Parkton. I'm posing these questions for my mother, who resides in Fayetteville. She's handicapped. My two questions are, how is the great customer service for PwC to implement rate hikes, and whoever gave them approval for the next 2 years for those rate hikes, 24 months after the national disaster that North Carolina and Cumberland County suffered. How is that great customer service? The second question is there's presently 23 counties out of the 77 counties in the state of North Carolina under what they call in economic world, economic duress. And for them, the PwC conglomerate to turn around and try to implement any form of rate hikes on work that should have been done as far as upgrading the water and the sewer lines before allowing companies to build new properties on sewer and water lines from the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Those are my three questions. Thank you for the time.
Thanks, sir.
Our next speaker is Mr. Craig Pearson.
Well, did someone check in? Okay, here it is. Hey, sir.
Hello, my name is Craig Pearson. I live at 6524 Lagoon Drive. First, I'd like to say I'd like to thank our mayor and the city council for bringing in new jobs because I've seen a lot of new things and resources in our schools, but it's kind of disheartening with our children when they graduate, and of course, there's no jobs, or they have to go to another city, or they have to go to another state. Okay, leading into my next deal is that Duke Energy, I was reading an article where in Duke Energy and Duke Progress, as well as Lumbee River, due to the new tax cuts for corporations, they're looking into passing the savings down to their customers. Is PwC looking into that? Okay. Is PwC looking into that? Now, my next question is, for the month of December, I finally, after all these years, had a chance to go on vacation for 2 weeks. I worked for 11 days at my job. I worked 10-hour days for that job. I also worked 8 hours on that Saturday. Why is it that when I came home in January, my bill was more than 3 months in one month? I did not have Christmas tree lights up because I wasn't here. I didn't have a Christmas tree up because I was not here. So how is it in the course of 11 days, I had a $624 bill?
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Madam Clerk, how many more speakers do we have?
3.
Third. Want to make sure that all the citizens are heard. The council has a policy of 30 minutes. I'm exceeding it because I want to make sure that you heard, but please be mindful of it so that we can get the last 3 speakers in to hear from everybody, okay? Yes, sir.
Our next speaker is Ms. Pam Renfro.
Oh. Okay. Thank you. Mr. Briggs, you got a new name, the AIT guy. All right, Madam Clerk, can you call the next speaker?
Ms. Gail Araki. I apologize if I mispronounced that.
No, you got it right.
Okay.
Hello. Please state your name and your address for us, please.
My name is Gail Araki. I'm at 4707 North Gale Circle in Fayetteville. And my comment, complaint, whatever, is to do with the fast track transit service. We've heard that we got another person working with the fast track, and we're willing to work with them on getting some changes done with the policy of reapplication, recertification, and what's positive, support. I forget. Anyway, I was wondering at that, and I would like to know who is the city council person that is responsible for that part of for transit problems.
Well, we have a transit director, Mr. Hume, and your council member representative can help you, or myself. So we'll get you with Mr. Hewitt to get you to the right party. Mr. Hewitt, can you or one of the deputies take care of her?
Yes, sir. I think she's asking, who is the council member liaison to the FAST
For transit.
committee? FAST department, but we'll find that out. Thank you, ma'am. We'll get with you right after the meeting.
Can someone find out what district she's in? Okay, thank you. Madam Clerk, last speaker.
Our final speaker is Mr. B. Brannon. Mr. B. Branhan.
No? All right, Madam Clerk, at this time, we'll close the public hearing. I'd like to thank all of the citizens, all of the speakers for coming this evening. We know that this is a touchy subject. Wanted to make sure that we allowed everyone that signed up to speak. At the end of the meeting, we're going to ask that you act in an orderly fashion. Mr. Mark Brown's here for PwC. He is not the commission. He is not in charge of your rates. So please don't take it out on him. He will try to help you as best he can, but let's do it in an orderly fashion so that we can try to get some resolution to this, okay? So Mr. Brown will hang around and meet with those that you can. He said he wanted to do that.
So I'd ask, the council's almost finished with the meeting, so they finish the meeting. We'll take a few minutes to let people who are not here for that matter to leave, let the people from the overflow room come in, and I'll take it.
Yeah, he said it was used. All right, thank you, sir. Council, with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Y'all have a